Okay, now we're going to do chapter 5. Chapter 5 deals with liens. Now, if you see the word lien anywhere, anytime on any exam, we're talking about money, money borrowed or money owed. Now, in the very first paragraph, I'd like you to highlight, put an X by that paragraph. A lien is a monetary charge or claim against property that's made to enforce the payment of money. So when someone ever borrows money, the lender requires some type of security, which is the property, as collateral, which means if you default, they get to take the property back. Now, on this next paragraph, the first 3 lines, I'd like you to highlight, put an X by. A lien only represents an interest in a property. Does not mean they actually own that property. It is a burden. It is an encumbrance to the property. It can lessen its value, but see, most people are not going to buy any property that has any lien against it. I'm going to talk about this in chapter 9, where people, when they buy property, they want clear title to it. Now, let's talk about different types of liens. There are 6 bullets here. I need you to highlight and put an X by all 6 bullets here. So the first type of lien, the first bullet, is called a voluntary lien. A voluntary lien is a lien that you created yourself. An example of a voluntary lien: a mortgage is a voluntary lien. See, when you borrow money to buy a piece of property, you voluntarily give the lender a right to take that property away from you if you fail to pay back that loan anytime in the future. A mortgage is a voluntary lien. The next bullet is a involuntary lien. A involuntary lien is a lien that was placed on your property that you did not want. A couple of examples. Property taxes are involuntary. I mean, we don't want to pay property taxes. But if you own property, you're going to have to pay taxes. We pay taxes to run our city government and everything else. Now, a lawsuit is an involuntary lien. The next bullet is called a statutory lien. A statutory lien is created by state law, by state statute. Property taxes are statutory liens. A mechanic's lien is a statutory lien. I'm going to be talking about mechanic's lien in a little bit of detail this evening. Equitable. The word equitable means it's fair. It's equal. That's what it means. And usually, equitable lien is what's rendered by the court. Let's say you and I, we got into a fist fight. And during the fight, maybe I broke your little finger. And you take me to court and you're going to sue me for $5 million because I broke your little finger in a fight that we had. We go before a judge and judge says, you know what, you're in a fight. He broke your little finger. Your finger's not worth $5 million. Here's $5,000 for your pain and suffering. Get out of my courtroom. A judge feels that that's equitable. $5 million for a broken finger is not equitable. So that's what they mean. And you know what? None of you ever have to worry about getting into a fight with me. Because I tell you, I've been in probably about, I'm guessing, honestly, my whole life, I bet 1,000 fights. And I almost won. I lost every fight I've been in. I could come in 3rd place in a 2-man fight. That's how I'm not much of a fighter. The only fight I almost won, and this is a true story, I was with a friend of mine. He's a lawyer. We went out. We were with our wives, and we were in a restaurant, but him and I stepped over to the bar. We had a smoke, and this drunk guy's there, and he thought I said something to me. What did you say to me? And he took a swing at me. He missed me, but he fell down. He thought I hit him. He got thrown out of the bar, but we were laughing. That's the closest I ever got to winning a fight. This drunk guy took a swing at me, missed me, fell on the ground, and he thought I hit him. He didn't even know. He says, who hit me? You hit me, you hit me. He didn't even know. So I'm not very good in fights. So You know, Brian, your father, Stanley, he was the toughest guy in the neighborhood. I saw your father take down three big guys at one time, three against one. He took them all down. He was one of the toughest guys I ever knew. That was many years ago. He was the king of the neighborhood over on Lawrence Avenue by Ravenswood. He was the king of the neighborhood. I saw it. Oh, your brother. I don't know about your brother. I didn't know he was like that. I know. But I saw your dad do it many, 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 many years ago. It's a long, long time ago. So let's go on to the next one. A general lien. A general lien is a lien that attaches all of the defendant's property, both real and personal. A lawsuit is a general lien. The IRS is a general lien. And then a specific lien is a lien that only attaches to one particular property. Like if I own 10 apartment buildings and I did not pay my property taxes on one of them, they're going to file a specific lien just against the one building, not the other one. So property taxes are involuntary, they're statutory, and they're specific. So they could be more than one thing, one type of a lien. Oh, someone's saying near Eastern Style, there's a judo place. I don't remember seeing a judo place. Guy a gold medal winner. Wow, I didn't know that. Ever go easy. I saw Frank yesterday. I stopped by the restaurant yesterday. Oh, okay. You know, there's a restaurant right there, East of Edens. I don't know if you've been there. That's a great restaurant over there, too. It's right on south of Tui on the east side of California. It's a really good restaurant there. They got good food, good prices there. The chef is real good. The chef is he cooks Middle Eastern food. He's from Mexico. He's been working there for 25 years. He's a Mexican. He cooks great Middle Eastern food over there. Been 25, maybe 27 years over at that restaurant. So these are the different types of liens. Now, let's go to the next page. Let's talk about priority of liens. I want you to highlight, put an X by that. Priority of liens. Liens are going to be paid in the order which they are filed or recorded, which means first in right is first in right is first in line. So let me draw something else. Let me get to my canvas, okay? Couple things I want you to know. Priority of liens. Liens are paid according to when they are filed and recorded, which means first in right means first in line. For example, I have a home and I got 3 mortgages. I got a first mortgage, and let's say it's $50,000. Let's say it's 50,000. And this mortgage was recorded 25 years ago. Then I have on the same property, I have a second mortgage. Maybe this one's 250,000. That was recorded 2 years ago. And say you got a third mortgage, same property, 95,000. That was recorded 6 months ago. It doesn't matter what the amounts are. If I default on this property, my first mortgage is going to get paid first. That's going to get paid first. Doesn't matter what the amount is. If there's any money left over, go to the second mortgage. And chances are, anyone that's in third place, fourth, fifth, sixth, or 12th, forget about it. They're never going to see anything. So priority of liens. Liens are going to be paid according to when they're filed and recorded. First in line, first in right is first in line. Now, saying that, priority of liens, here's what else you need to know. What I just said about priority of liens, what you need to know that there are 3 exceptions. The exceptions are, number 1, property taxes. Property taxes become a lien on January 1st of any given year, even though they're not due and payable to the following year. You have a mortgage recorded 25 years ago. Your current property taxes will jump ahead of everything else. Number 2, it's called special assessments. I'm not talking about special assessments like in a condo building, when they put in new windows and they charge special assessments. This special assessment is a one-time charge issued by the village or the city when they put in a new sidewalk or a curb or a sewer line. See, property taxes are levied every year. Special assessment is by the government, a one-time charge. Number 3, it's called a mechanics lien. A mechanics lien is a contractor's lien. You hire a contractor to do some work on your home. You don't pay them, they're going to file a mechanics lien, which can force the sale of your property. So what I do want you to know, priority of liens. Liens are going to be paid according to when they're filed or recorded. First in right, first in line. The 3 exceptions are property taxes will always, always, always be number 1. Special assessments will be number 2. That's issued by the government. And then mechanics lien number 3. And then it'll go to the mortgages over here. So make sure you know that. Okay, I'll get back to my text. Real estate tax liens. I like you to highlight, put an X by that. So anyone that owns property in this country, not everyone, but most people, we have property taxes that you have to pay. The taxes run our government, our schools, our police, our fire, our park district, streets and sanitation. Now, not everyone pays taxes. There's people that are exempt from taxes. Governments do not pay taxes. Churches and synagogues and temples, they do not pay taxes. Universities do not pay taxes. Charitable organizations, hospitals do not pay. Everyone else does. Now, general tax ad valorem. Highlight, put an X by that. Ad valorem is Latin for according to value. A property is going to be taxed at an ad valorem basis. Let's go to this next page. Here they have the exemptions of things that are industries that are exempt from taxes. So now let's go down to, don't worry about the homeowner's exemption. I don't see that happening on the exam. Let's go to assessment on page 80. I want you to highlight, put an X by that. Real estate is valued for tax purposes by county or township assessors or appraisers. This official valuation process is called assessments. Now, Let me go to the bottom of page 80. Validity of tax liens. Highlight, put an X by that. Real estate taxes must be valid to be enforceable. That means they must be levied properly, must be used for legal purpose, must be applied equitably to all property. Any taxes that remain delinquent can be collected through various means, which I'm going to explain in a few moments. So on the top of the next page, I want you to highlight, put an X by this. General real estate taxes are levied annually for the calendar year and become a prior first lien superior to all other liens on January 1st of that year. Let me tell you what happened. January 1st of 2020, a lien was placed against every single property in the state of Illinois. Even if it hasn't sold yet, there's a lien placed against it. Property taxes are not due to a year after they are levied, a year after. Payment of tax bills. Highlight, put an X by that. There's one part I have to delete. Here's what you need to know. In all Illinois counties, except for Cook County, property taxes are due in 2 equal installments, one half by June 1st, the second half by September 1st, except for Cook County. In fact, if you see anything with Cook County, I would take it out, cross it out. Now, here's what you need to know. In the state of Illinois, we have 102 counties in the entire state of Illinois. 102 counties. Of the 102 counties, 101 counties, property taxes are due in 2 equal installments, one half by June 1st, the other half by September 1st of the following year. Cook County is not on the state exam. Now, those of you that own property now in Cook County, I know when your property taxes come out. In fact, it's written there, you can cross it out. It's not on the state exam. It's not on the state exam. So, let me give you a state exam question. Let's see, let's go here. I'm going to give you a state exam question. Now, I expect all of you to answer this. We closed on a property. You closed on a property on May 15th, 2017. That's the day you close on a property. First question I'm going to ask you, because you're going to see this on the state. First question. When was the lien placed on this property? I want to know the month, the day, the year that the lien was placed on this property. We closed on May 15th, 2017. When was the lien, the month, the day, the year that lien was placed on this property? Okay, I need all of you to try to figure this out. We closed on May 15th, 2017. I need to know the month, the day, and the year that a lien was placed on this property. I'm talking about property tax lien. Property tax lien is what I'm talking about. One wants a lien placed on this property. The answer is this, which some of you got. Not all of you, but some of you. January 1st, 2017 is the answer. That's when the tax lien was placed on this property. You buy the property on January 1st, 2017 or December 31st, 2017, or any day in between, the lien was placed on January 1st, 2017. Are we okay with that? Because I got another question for you. Let me clear up my board. I got another question. When on this particular property that you closed on May 15, 2017, I want to know, when is the first installment due? I want to know the month, the day, the year. The month, the day, the year. Don't worry about the amount. It's always property taxes are due in 2 equal installments. So we close on May 15, 2017. My question to you is, when is the first installment due on this property? Month, day, and year. These are things you need to know. I got a lot of you out there. I'm not getting a lot of answers out there. Yeah. And Brian, forget about Cook County. You will never see Cook County on a state exam. Do not put down, I don't want to hear Cook County, okay? I don't want to hear Cook County because it's going to confuse everybody. Okay, some of you got it right, some of you don't. The answer is this. June 1st, 2018. 2018. You remember, we're a year behind on when the taxes are due. So you buy property anytime in the year 2017. The first installment's not due to June 1st, 2018. The second installment will be due September 1st, 2018. Now, you bought this property. You closed on May 15th, 2017. 2 weeks after you close, you're going to get a tax bill on June 1st. But you know what that's for? Last year, and it has nothing to do with this particular problem. These are the answers to it, to this problem. Okay. All right. That's exactly what you'll see. Now, let me get back to my textbook. I think I'm going to do a couple more tax problems for you. No, let me go to this next paragraph, enforcement of tax liens. Someone had a question. Let me see what it is. So, it behooves you to buy on the initial days of the halves of the year. No, it doesn't. You know why? Everything's going to be prorated. You close on a property on May 15th of 2017, the owner's going to owe for the taxes up to the day of closing of May 15th, 2017. Your taxes are not going to be due to the following year. I mean, you get a tax bill on June 1st, 2017, but you're going to collect that money from the seller to pay that tax bill up. It's going to be prorated. We're going to talk about prorations in chapter 10. I got a lot of proration problems I will work with you on. Now, enforcement of tax liens. You got highlight, put an X by that, and highlight, put an X by number 1, 2, and 3. Now, if someone doesn't pay their property taxes, every year they have a annual tax sale. Now, you have to be 6 months behind in Cook County to have the annual tax sale. Every county is six months behind. But let's say I did not pay my property taxes, so went to the annual tax sale. So you can buy my property for the taxes, but you don't take over my property because I have 2 years to redeem the property. So you don't even occupy the property. I have 2 years. Well, first of all, I have to be 6 months behind before they have the annual tax sale. Then I have 2 years for anyone that bought my property taxes to redeem my property by paying you back, and I redeem my property. Every homeowner in the state, every property owner in the state of Illinois has that right. Now, let's say no one buys at the annual tax sale. Then we have a forfeiture sale. And at the forfeiture sale, this is where they listed in all the major newspapers, neighborhood papers, Tribune, Times, everything else, and anyone can buy the property taxes. Now, still, the owner has a total of 2.5 years from the time that they're delinquent to redeem the property at the forfeiture sale. Now, let's say no one buys at the annual tax sale. No one bought it at the forfeiture sale. Now we have a scavenger sale. The scavenger shows up, the scavenger sale, after the 2.5 years have passed. That's when the scavenger sale shows up, after the 2.5 years. So what happens is that anyone can buy that property, starting bid $1. $1. Here's what happens. I did not pay my property taxes. 2.5 years have gone by. No one bought my taxes. The county's losing money, so they're not responsible for any back taxes. Starting bid $1, but most of them sell for around $20. They all sell for about $20. And the next one's going to be exactly a year from now, the scavenger sale. You go online, there's probably 30,000 properties you could buy at the scavenger sale. Some of them are just junk properties. Commonwealth Edison owns a lot of them. It's not 30,000, I'm sorry. The scavenger sale is more like probably about 150 or 180,000 properties. Commonwealth Edison has small parcels that are 2 feet by 6 feet. They used to be a transformer. They have no use for it. Nothing that you can ever build on. So that's how they enforce the tax liens. And anyone can buy it at the scavenger sale. You're not responsible for back taxes, and you own that property. I have a question here. If you purchase a tax sale, are you responsible for paying the taxes for the past 2 years? Yes, you have to keep paying them unless it's a scavenger sale. Then you're not responsible. Now, another question. If you do not pay your taxes and have a mortgage, who will pay for the mortgage? Well, usually now, in reality, if I have a mortgage on a property, the mortgage company will probably pay my property taxes. Why? They're not going to let you buy my property for $6,000 in back taxes when there's a $150,000 mortgage on it. So, but you could be liable for that mortgage if you bought the taxes and you own that property. You could be. So now I need to do. Why would someone buy tax lien on a property? I know a lot of people that do that because they want that property and they buy it and they can own it within 2.5 years of the time they were delinquent. And you can own a property just for the cost of the property taxes. It's pretty common. I've been to the tax sale down at Cook County, kind of a joke over there, but everything's set up ahead of time. I went to the Cook County tax sale. That was years ago. And it's supposed to be held in the public. It can't be held behind closed doors. They have them in a Cook County building over on Clark Street, and it's on what's called the floor. It's called as 3M, third floor mezzanine. They hold them in a hallways there, and it's really dark in there. They got one 25-foot, 25-watt light bulb, so you can't see anything. And I went there for the tax sale because there was a particular property I wanted, and I don't see anyone there. I'm on time. I don't see anyone. You had to come in and you had to put up a cashier's check, and they give you a bid card, and depending on how much money you put up in the cashier's check determines they have different color cards, so which means you can bid on higher price property. And if you're successful in the bid, you got to come up with the balance of the money by the next day. So now, when I went there, I don't see anybody there. I go, where the hell? I thought I was on the wrong date or something. I don't see anybody there. Then all of a sudden, this door opens up, and a bunch of people, about 25 people, come out of this room, along with the guy that's holding the tax sale. So now he starts doing a tax sale, and this is what happened. I saw this happen here in, well, some people call it Cook County. I call it Crook County. And here's what happened. The auctioneer or the guy from the county, the tax sale guy, he looks around the room. He says, hey, Ralph, I got one for you, which means, guess what that means? No one else bids on them because it goes to the one that bids the lowest interest rate. And it could go up to 36% a year. So it goes to one that bids the lowest interest rate. So no one bids against Ralph. Then he goes, hey, Steve, I got one for you. That means no one else bids. I was trying to bid, and I went up to the guy. I says, what happened? How come I couldn't bid on these things? He says, I didn't see you. I could have lit up Roman candles. He wouldn't have saw me. What he didn't see me in that closed doors before the auction where they arrange who's going to get what. That's what happened. I'm telling you, that's what happens. So. How are the due dates determined? I mean, who came up with it? I don't know how they came up with it, but I need you to know property taxes are due in 2 equal installments, one half by June 1st, the other half by September 1st of the following year. That part I need you to know. How do they determine that it's going to be those 2 dates? I have no idea. But that's the answer on the exam. Now, I'm going to give you a couple problems right now, tax problems, which you will see these problems. Okay. A lot of this stuff I already talked about. So, okay. Let me go to my Canvas, and I want to give you a couple tax problems. I'm going to show you how to do them. Okay. I'm going to write down this problem. You need to write down this problem, and I'm going to show you how to solve this problem. A property has a current market value of, let's say it's $400,000. This is going to be on every state exam, by the way. There are certain math problems always show up. It's being assessed at 30%. I'm going to explain all these as I solve this problem. We have an equalization factor of 1.2. And the taxes is $4 for every $100 of value. Go ahead and write down that problem. I'm going to answer a question someone has. If you purchase on a tax sale, what happens after 2 years Do you obtain a deed? Yes, you file for a suit to quiet title to get the deed to that property. There's no closing that needs to be done. You just had to file with the court. It's called suit to quiet title to put the property and the taxes in your name. I would recommend you get a lawyer if you're going to do that, unless you really know exactly what you're doing. So let me go over this problem again. Property has a current market value of $400,000. It's being assessed at 30%. We have an equalization factor of 1.2. The taxes are $4 for every $100. Here's the question. What are the property taxes? Oh, very good, Sal. I think that is absolutely correct. Let me show you how to solve this. The current market value is $400,000, but properties never taxed at the full market value. They're always taxed at the fraction of the market value. The fraction could be anything from 20% to 60%. In this case, it's 30%. So I need to multiply 400,000 by 30% in this case, which gives me $120,000. Now we have a equalization factor. Oh, by the way, the 120,000 is called the assessed value. Now we have an equalization factor. Not all states have an equalization factor. State of Illinois does. What is the equalization factor? It makes property equal throughout the entire state of Illinois. For example, if you own 10 acres of land on North Michigan Avenue, 10 acres of land on North Michigan Avenue is going to be worth a lot more money than 10 acres of land somewhere in downstate Illinois where farmers growing some beans. So we have an equalization factor. On the state exam, your equalization factor is going to be anything from 1.1 to 1.95. It could be 1.3, 1.55, 1.7. This case happens to be 1.2. So I multiply 120,000 by 1.2, which will give me $144,000. The $144,000 is called the equalized assessed value. Now, your taxes are usually property taxes based on per 100. Occasionally, you might see it per 1,000, but generally it's per 100. Now, this case, it's $4 for every $100 of value. It could be $3.50 per 100. It could be $6 per 100. This case, it's $4 per 100. Now I take 144,000 and I multiply it by $4. There's other ways of doing this, but I'm trying to show you the easiest way, which will give me $576,000. Now I have to divide this by $100. Property taxes for the year, $5,760. That's how you solve this problem. Now the taxes for the year is $5,760. Sometimes on the exams, they're going to ask you for the first installment. Then you divide that number by 2. Sometimes they might ask you for the monthly taxes. Then you divide it by 12. So pay attention to what they ask you. Now, yes, Sal, you got that one. Very good. You got that one correct. Before I go, I got another problem similar to this one, tax problem. But before I go on to anything else, you got a couple of these in the back of this chapter. And I actually included this on the appendix math portion, not chapter 17. I don't like chapter 17. I didn't write chapter 17. I did appendix A, which is more likely what you see on the state exam. Anybody have any questions on this particular problem? Because if not, I'm going to go to the next problem. Okay, here's your next. Similar, it's a little bit different. It's similar to it. A property has a current market value of $300,000. It's being assessed at $35%. We have an equalization factor. Now, not always you're going to see the equalization factor. On the Illinois law portion, you will. On the national portion, you will not. So if you don't see it, you just skip that step. Equalization factor in this case will be 1.5. The taxes is 40 mils. Outside of our questions in our course, outside of the state exam, you're never going to use the word mill in your entire life, but it's on the state exam, so you have to understand that. So the current market value is $300,000. It's being assessed at 35%. We have an equalization factor of 1.5. The taxes are 40 mils. Question is, what are the property taxes? Now, before I show you how to solve this problem, I need to take a moment and explain a little bit about mills. I think that's correct, Sal. You should be working for Maria Pappas. The only thing I like about Cook County, honestly, Maria Pappas is one of the nicest people I ever met. She's always trying to give refunds. Automatically, she gave over $12 million in refunds. Right now, in Cook County, there's over $90 million worth of refunds. And there's a way of searching that. And she, you know what she did? She made sure, because I got invited to her office, I met with her. She had a nice little display. She invited a lot of our people from our community and everything else. The tax bill, the Cook County tax bill, because of Maria Pappas, is printed in 26 different languages. And they tell you how to, read your tax bill in all these different languages. There's these several brochures in every language from, it's just anything you could think of. They have, of course they have, I know it's in Chinese, they have Korean, they have Vietnamese, they have Albanian, they have Croatian, they have Serbian, they have Italian, German, Greek, Armenian, they got Spanish, Polish. She tried to make sure everyone understands their tax bill. That's what she does. Like I said, she's very, very smart. She's, I think she was in the Olympics when she was younger too. She got gold medals and everything else displayed in her office. She would never swim in Lake Michigan. She says the worst place to ever go swimming is Lake Michigan. So let me explain the mill. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track. 1 mil equals 1/1000th of a dollar, 0.001. 10 mils equal 1 penny. 100 mils equal 10 cents. And 1,000 mils equals $1. Now, show you this. Anytime you see any mill problem, no matter what the number is, say it's 1,000 mils, you put a decimal point at the end and move it 3 places to the left. 1, 2, 3. Becomes $1. 10 mils, decimal point, move it 3 places to the left. 1, 2, I have to bring in another 0, I have to move 3 places. 3 becomes 0.010 or 0.1, 1 cent, it doesn't matter. So if I have I have 1,750 mils. I move the decimal point 3 places over. 1, 2, 3 becomes 1.75. Okay, so let's solve this problem right now. Let me move it up a little bit. So the property has a current market value of $300,000. Again, properties are never taxed at the full market value. They're always taxed at the fraction of the market value. In this case, happens to be 35%. Multiply this by 35% will give me 105,000. That's called the assessed value. Now we have an equalization factor of 1.5. Need to multiply this by 1.5, which will give me, I think this gives me 157,500, I believe. I'm not 100% sure. Let me just double check before I give you that number. 105,000 times 1.5. Yeah, 157,500. 157,500. Now the taxes are 40 mils. So mils I have to multiply. So if I take $157,500 times 40 mils, looks like 0.04 or 0.040, either one is correct. If I take 157,500 times 0.040, the answer comes out that the property taxes are $6,300. Now you will see both these problems I gave you. Thank you, Charles. Thanks for that. This first problem I gave you, I'm going to leave them up here. First problem I gave you, what we did is we multiplied here, multiplied here, and then divided by 100 here. So actually what we did, we multiply, and then divide by 100. Now, on this problem with the mils, what you do, all we do is multiply. We multiply, no dividing. That's how you solve that. So, anybody have any questions? Now, again, the taxes for the year is $6,300. If I want the first installment, I divide that by 2, will be $3,150. If I want to know what the monthly taxes are, I divide it by 12, which comes out to $540, I guess. Let's see, 12 divided to 300. No, it's not 540. It's like 525 or something like that. So I just want you to get that. Okay, let's talk about other liens. Let's skip down to where it says a mechanics lien. Now, a mechanics lien is a contractor's lien. A mechanics lien, if you hire a contractor to do some work on your property and you don't pay them, they can file a mechanics lien against you. Mechanics lien can only be filed against real property only, not personal property. Now, who could file a mechanics lien? A architect could file one, contractors, the people that supply the materials, the subcontractors, they can all file a mechanics lien. Now, I took my car into my mechanic to get fixed. My mechanic fixed my car and I did not pay him and I took my car back. Can my mechanic file a mechanics lien against me? It sounds like a state exam question. I'm going to give it to you again. I took my car into my mechanic to get my car fixed. And he fixed my car and I took my car back and I did not pay my mechanic for fixing the car. Can my mechanic file a mechanics lien against me or the car? The answer is no. A mechanic's lien has nothing to do with an auto mechanic. It's a contractor's lien. A car is considered personal property. Mechanic's lien can only be filed against real property only. Okay, I want to make sure you all understand that. In fact, I saw this question. I own a plane, and I hired this company to build a hangar to house my plane. I did not pay the company. What can they do? Can they file mechanic's lien against the hangar only? Or can they file against the plane? Or can they file against both the hangar and the plane? The answer is only the hangar, because a plane is personal property. Mechanic's lien can only be filed against real property only, right? So I saw that question on the state exam. Now, let me go on to skip a couple paragraphs. See this two-line paragraph starting off with contractors with unpaid bills. Highlight, put an X by it. This is something that always shows up on a state exam. Contractors with unpaid bills who wish to enforce their lien rights against the owner must file their lien notices within 4 months after the work is completed. Mechanic's lien, state exam question, must be filed within 4 months after the work is completed. Within 4 months after the work is completed. Their lien rights expire after 2 years, but the mechanic's lien must be filed within 4 months after the work is completed. Mechanic's lien becomes a lien on a property as soon as the work was started, or as soon as the contract was signed, or when the materials were delivered. That's when it becomes a lien. Any one of those three. Mechanic's lien would take over any other previously recorded liens except for property taxes and special assessments. Okay, got another question here. What happens to the contractor lien? Oh, lies or adds the other charges. Well, they got to prove that they have a signed contract for the work that they agree to perform. Now, if a contractor does any additional work, they better get the signature of the owner that they got permission to do it, and how much it's going to cost. Okay, I'm going to talk about a lien waiver in just like 5 seconds. Okay, Timothy, I'm going to explain what a lien waiver is. Most people don't understand what a lien waiver is. I'm going to explain that to you. Way less, just a fraction of 1% of all the people in this entire country know exactly what a lien waiver is. Now, so let's go to that paragraph, lien waiver. Now, let's say you hired me, I'm a general contractor. You hired me to do some work on your property. And I had to bring in subcontractors. I'm remodeling your kitchen, so I had to bring subcontractors, electricians, plumbers, carpenters to remodel the kitchen. And after I got done with the job, you loved the job. It was a beautiful job. You paid me in full. And I gave you a receipt paid in full. But I did not pay the material men for the materials. I did not pay the subcontractors for their work. Even though you have a receipt paid in full, you have a canceled check that you paid the general in full, because I did not pay the subcontractors or material men. The material men and the subcontractors could come after you, the homeowner, and they could get paid again. As you think this stuff happens all the time. You never ever pay your general contractor the final bill until he gets a lien waiver that's signed by all the subcontractors and all the material men, because once you get the lien waiver, then they can't come after you, the homeowner. They could only go after the general contractor. The subs and the material men can only go after the general contractor. So don't ever pay anyone in full without getting a lien waiver. Now, I just want to say something. I used to own a construction company. I had a construction company probably about 10, 12 years. I did a lot of insurance jobs, mostly damage by hail for windows and siding and roofs too. I had like 4 or 5 crews working for me. I did additions. I did a $200,000 whole second floor on a house and things like that. And you won't believe it that no one understands when I give them the lien waiver, they don't even know what it is, and I have to explain it to them. You got to be very careful. There's a lot of good general contractors that are licensed. They pull the necessary permits when they have to. There's a lot of good general contractors out there, but you know what else you have? Well, we in the business, we call them Chuck with a truck. This is a guy who went to sleep at night, and he wasn't a general contractor, but when he woke up in the morning, he is a general contractor. Why? He has a van and he has a credit card for Home Depot, and he goes and buys some tools. And this morning, he woke up and he's the general contractor. They're not licensed, they're not bonded, they're not insured. You got to make sure someone comes on your property and they're going to do some work. You better make sure they're bonded and insured. Someone falls off the roof of your home and they're not insured. Let me tell you who will pay for that for the rest of their life. You, the homeowner, will pay for that for the rest of your life. You will pay for that. So you got to make sure that they sometimes someone will show you, oh look, here's my certificate, I'm insured. Well, you need to get a copy of that insurance certificate. Call up the insurance company to make sure, because people will make the first payment on it just to get that certificate, but then they don't make any other payments and their insurance is canceled. You know, I had a guy fall off the roof. I did pay, the insurance, the workman's comp is very expensive. That's a big expense for a contractor. Outside of the labor and the materials, your third biggest expense is the insurance. I had a guy fall off a roof, and let me tell you something. When a guy falls off a roof of a home, you can hear that a block away. I was in a backyard, and I heard the bones break. The guy fell off the roof. It broke some bones. I knew right away. First thing I did, I didn't even run up there. I called 911. I said I had a guy fall off the roof. I mean, you know that sound. It's a very sickening sound. You don't like to hear that sound. So he did. He broke a bunch of ribs and everything else. But I did have workman's comp. It's very expensive. See, Lisa Madigan's office is very tough on contractors to make sure they are bonded and insured. Like I said, there's a lot of good generals out there, but there's some people that just are not. She does protect the rights of general contractors, but the insurance could cost a lot of money. For every $100,000, it's based on how much business you do. If you do $100,000, you could pay $5,000-6,000 in workman's comp and insurance bond. You're doing millions. We used to do millions of dollars. Like I said, I had a bunch of crews working for me. I mean, you're paying, over $100,000 in insurance, but you got to have that. You got to have that. So what you have to be aware of as a licensed real estate agent, if the owner did any work done on that property, you better make sure that if it was needed, that they did pull permits. Because what could happen, the new owner can be fined anywhere from $500 to $1,000 each day that there wasn't a permit pulled. And they did it years ago. They did the work. They never pulled a permit. I mean, then that could add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars that the new owner will be responsible for. So if you take a listing, they did some work that required permits, you better make sure they have their permits. That's what you have to do. So that's what a lien waiver is. Again, you never let go of that final payment of that check until you have that lien waiver in the other hand. You don't pay off until you get that lien waiver. It's okay for the questions. I'm here to answer your questions. How do you know what requires a permit? Well, a licensed contractor will know what requires anything that requires anything structural. Like I said, I did a lot of roofing jobs. To do a tear down on a roof and put up a new roof, I don't need a permit. But if they change the plywood sheathing underneath, yes, then I need a permit. Okay. So And you know what's the worst thing about it? That when you pull a permit, then you have to say I'm doing a addition on a house. So I'm running plumbing and electrical and everything else. Well, before I can put up the drywall, I have to wait for uh, the electrician, electrical um, inspector to come in to make sure that the wiring is fine. I have to wait for the plumbing inspector to come in. And if they don't always show up on time or they forget the appointment and you got workers there and you can't do any work because you're waiting for the inspector to come in. Well, if all the work was done by the owners and they didn't pull a permit, well, that could be a real big problem. And what you could do at that point, and make sure you mention it to the lawyer, and the lawyer could hold some money aside at the closing to get this permit, to get the to cover if there's any cost or anything else. So that's what you do. Now, let's skip down a few paragraphs. There's that one line all by itself. I want you to highlight, I want you to put an X by it. A judgment is a general involuntary equitable lien on both real and personal property owned by the debtor, the owner. A judgment is a general involuntary equitable lien on both real and personal property. I'd like you to put an X by that line. Lis pendens. I'd like you to, at the bottom of this page, highlight, put an X by that. Lis pendens is Latin for pending lawsuit or pending litigation. Pending lawsuit or pending litigation. That's all it means. That's all you need to know. Let's go on to the next page. Attachment. I'd like you to highlight, put an X by that one. Now, an attachment is this. Let's say that, let's say I'm involved in a lawsuit. I had a car accident. I killed somebody. Now they're suing me for everything I own. I have $10 million in assets, and they're going to sue me for $10 million. Well, I don't want to lose all my property, so I take everything I own and I sell it to a friend of mine for $500. Now let this guy sue me. He gets my $500 because that's all I have left. Well, and then a lawsuit's over, I take my property back. Well, what happens if someone tries to hide their assets? The courts could actually attach or seize my assets. They say, give your friend back the $500. You take your $10 million and the courts will control it. And you deal with the lawsuit. You're not going to be able to hide your assets. That's what a attachment is. There was, I don't know if you remember, there was a guy, his name was Bernie Madoff. He did one of these Ponzi schemes, one of these pyramid schemes where he stole over $50 billion from investors, over $50 billion. And his whole family, his in-laws, his sons, and everyone was involved with this. And then when he got caught, he tried to take the entire blame himself because he got caught and he was in jail. And he knows he has cancer, he's dying of cancer, so he took all the blame. He only had two sons. Both sons are dead. One of them changed his name, the oldest son, I think his name was Andrew. The oldest one changed his name and hung himself on the anniversary of the indictment. The other son died, well, it was about 5 years ago after. The other son died of stress, the other son. He had two sons. He stole $50 billion, all the money in the world, and look what happens. He wound up in jail, his wife in jail, his in-laws and everything else, his accountant, they all went to, he had two sons and they're both dead. For what? For money that he stole from people. Unbelievable what this guy did. They made a movie about him. I don't know if it's out yet, but I know there's a movie. I don't even know what it's called, but his name was Bernie Madoff, this guy. And for that money, and look what he lost, loses two sons, only two sons because of that. All right. Someone asked me, what about if you have a property under LLC? Well, first of all, a corporation will give you many protections, okay? Not 100%, but many protections. The LLC, limited liability company, or a LLP, or a sub S, subchapter S, those are different forms of corporations where you have some of the protections of a corporation, but you're taxed as an individual, not as a corporation, so you don't have the double taxation. But if you have your property on an LLC, you cannot always protect it. You can maybe you get some protections, but not total protections, because people can look that up. It's a good idea to have, property in LLC, but it doesn't mean you're going to be immune from any type of a lawsuit. They can find out that you still own property. So, Commercial Real Estate Broker Lien Act. I need you to highlight, put an X by that paragraph there. Commercial Real Estate Broker Lien Act. This is something that I think pretty much everyone will see on the state exam. Now, if you lease commercial property or you sell commercial property, it involves a lot of money in commissions, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. A friend of mine leased a 900 North Michigan, right above the Bloomingdale building, office space, just a couple of years ago, for a lease. It was a long-term lease. His commission was $2.25 million. This is for a lease. Now he gets half of it when a lease is signed, and they had about 9 or 10 months of what they call build outs. He got the other half as soon as they moved in, 9 or 10 months later. If that company went bankrupt, well, that broker made his money. $2.25 million. There's another guy. Here's what happened. I didn't know him. Back in the year early 2000, like 2001, 2002, this guy called me up and he said, here's what this guy did. His name was Doug Yeaman, this guy. He opened up 7 real estate offices in the city of Chicago and a couple of the suburbs up in the North Shore. He opened up 7 offices, and he was not even licensed. He didn't even have a broker's license, let alone a managing broker's license. IDFPR called him and says, you got 60 days to get your license, or they're going to shut him up completely down. Well, he called me up. I didn't know who he was. He called me up. He says, I need some private tutoring. I need to get my brokers and managing brokers license. Back then, now it's a 2-year wait, but back then you could go from one to the other right away, back in 2002. And I didn't have the time. I did tutoring, but at that time I did not have the time for tutoring. So when a guy called me up, I just hung up on the guy, and he kept calling me back. I said, I don't have the time to do this. He says, Sam, I'll pay you whatever you want. I said, why don't you take the class? You can take the class. At the time, to take the brokers and the managing brokers together would cost them $1,000. Take the class, come to class. I don't have time for private tutoring. He says, Sam, name your price. I'll pay you anything you want. So I just threw a number at him. All right, I tell you what, you want me to do private tutoring? I'll tutor you, and I'll make sure you pass the state exam. You get your managing broker's license. You give me $10,000. That's what I told the guy. And Doug, he says, okay, I'll do it. I thought this guy's crazy. He's going to pay $10,000 for a class that costs $1,000. So I hung up on the guy. He called me back. He says, Sam, look, my office is on Division and Clark Street. You come down there. I have a $10,000 check made out to you. I didn't believe him. I says, let me take a drive down there. I did, and he did. He gave me $10,000 to private tutor him. And the only time I had was Friday nights and Sunday mornings. That's the only time I had available. He went out a lot. He couldn't make it. Call me. I'm down at his office on Division Street, and he calls me because I got tied up at dinner. I says, well, I'm at your office. Several times he canceled on me, but he paid me $300 every time I showed up. This guy was a multi-millionaire. I did not know that. He was a multi-millionaire. I would have probably charged him more if I knew. How he made his money back in the 70s, he was a physics professor at UCLA. He was a physics professor. In the 70s, a physics professor made about $25,000 at that time in the mid 70s. Well, what he did is he met a guy named Aristotle Onassis. He's the guy that married Jackie Kennedy. He was a Greek shipbuilder. He built all these ships and everything else. Well, he met the guy, and Aristotle Onassis said, "Why didn't you get into real estate?" He says, "What do I know about real estate?" He says, "Look, I'm financing." Aristotle Onassis financed the first World Trade Center. He financed that. He says, "I give you the master lease on the World Trade Center," which means every square inch of the office space rented, he got a commission. You know how much money he made by leasing? Over $95 million, $95 million for leasing the World Trade Center. Guess what? He quit being a professor teaching physics. He got into real estate. And he lived in California. He used to fly to New York, to do all his leases. He had two jet planes, but he couldn't fly them. And they were big jet planes because to fly from California to New York without stopping, he had to have big jets. He had a pilot that flew him all over. I didn't know this guy was that rich. He opened up 7 offices, but he liked my tutoring, and he hired me to do all the training for all 7 offices. He had like about 700 agents working for him. So I did all the training for him and his company. He wrote a book recently. His name is Doug Yeaman. The title of the book is called Weapons of Mass Distractions. Weapons of Mass Distractions. His name is Doug Yeaman, Yeaman. He's based out of Utah now. He lives in Utah. Sold all his companies, but that worked out for me. I didn't know he was going to be that good. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get that far off track. I'll make it up to you. Commercial Real Estate Broker Lien Act. Now, if you're not paid your commission, the sponsoring broker can file a lien against that commercial property in order to make sure they get paid their commission. They cannot do this on residential. If you don't get paid your commission on residential property, the sponsoring broker has to file a lawsuit against the owner, not the property. But on commercial property, you can file a lien against the property. And that is the end of chapter 5.